Pittsburgh Symphony, a couple days ago, January the 28th, played a concert that featured the Barber Violin Concerto, which is a favorite piece of mine. I was looking forward to this concert. And then the second half was Bela Bartok's Concerto for Orchestra, which is a great piece. So it's a good concert. Guest conductor George Valkuha and the violinist Alexei Kenny. I'll start with the important stuff. There was no themed cocktail this week. I asked, and they said no. They were quite abrupt, I thought, when I asked. It wasn't like he was that busy. I just said, is there a special cocktail this week? It's like, no. So I'm wondering, they probably all watch these videos, and they know that I've had nothing good to say about those cocktails. And they're probably thinking, here they are. They are investing a fair amount of time understanding the music and then really putting that musical understanding combined with their mixological, bartending skills and coming up with something that they're proud of. And then some jerk who doesn't even drink comes up and says that it's garbage. So they probably said, fuck this. We're not even going to make one. And the thing is today, like with Barbara and, truth with Bartok, sort of a between wars New York-y vibe, you could make a really nice, just old-fashioned. Not a fancy one. I don't need like a burnt chocolate glazed cherry in my old-fashioned. But make it nice. Crush the sugar. Throw some fruit in there. I do like fruit in my old-fashioned. Just serve it up. Jack Daniels, could be just a Crown Royal. Make it with Crown Royal. A Crown Royal old-fashioned. That would have been a good themed cocktail. But they didn't have any. And I'm sorry if my unappreciative comments just demoralized the entire symphony organization. I imagine even at the chair of the board, they were just like, God damn it, we try our best with these cocktails. And gosh darn it, I think they're tasty, but this Kaiser fella just keeps making fun of them. All right, so the music, let's start. Nico Muhly, Bright Idea. Muhly was there, and he spoke for the appropriate length for a composer who's invited to talk. He said 43 seconds, which was charming, but it was about a minute. That was good. We don't want a 10-minute, unless it's like the pre-concert talk. But if you're just coming out, it was nice to have been invited out. I didn't love this piece. I'm sorry. It's very well written. It is a bright idea. He described it in one way as thinking of the piece in terms of who's playing it. So it starts with the inner, I guess the first jazz of the strings, then gradually moves out and becomes a concerto for orchestra of sorts. That's how he described it. I didn't get that. I'm sorry. It seemed a bit. It's very bright. It was indeed bright. It seemed a bit monochromatic. Sorry. But the thing that got me was he talked about. No, the thing that got me was. I will come back to the piece. The thing that got me is I remember really liking an album by Nico Muhly. I was really excited to hear this piece and then to see him. An album called Drones, it's piano and strings. Really liking it. And I just looked it up now. It was written over 15 years ago. It was like 2000 something, 10, 12. I was like, wow. I'm old. He looked, he looked young. Must be 40 now, but he looked young. They all looked young. The conductor, George, looked very young. He had a nice beard, but he looked like he was a teenager. He's not. He's like director in Houston. I mean, he's a, good conductor, good career. But he looked very young. And so did the violinist. So did the soloist. Alexei Kenny. I made a joke that they looked like the Backstreet Boys, but that just dates me, which is the real problem here. Is not that they're young. They're in the prime of their musical careers. Great violin soloist and a exciting young conductor, they're in the 30s probably. I'm just old. So the piece, right? You talked about the structure, and which I didn't quite get, moving out around the orchestra. And then he said, and check out the double bass solo. I don't know, Nico. I didn't hear a double bass solo. And I have a hearing aid in. I didn't hear it. And I mentioned it to Catherine, my wife, and our friends, Nick and Shannon, who joined us for the concert, which made it my favorite concert of the season because they were with us. I didn't hear a double bass solo. I would have liked to have heard a double bass solo just to see how it would fit in with that otherwise quite, bubbly, bright. Anyway, nice start to the piece, to the concert. I really like that Drones album. I'm going to listen to that again. I looked it up. I knew there was something I was thinking of. Nico Muhly. He's very successful. He's a good composer. This piece didn't do it for me. Concerto for Violin, Samuel Barber. This piece that my friend Larry and I used to always put on when we were into our bottle of bourbon. We like to listen to Sibelius Fifth, occasionally a bit of Mahler, but this slow movement from this concerto would often find its way into the rotation. So the end of the bottom of the bottle rotation. We would sit there and, it's just an incredibly beautiful concerto. And then in my playlists, it often gets wrapped in with the Ravel piano concerto, which also has an extraordinary oboe solo in the slow movement. So both concerti have oboe solos that almost make the second movement feel like an ad hoc oboe concerto, which is nice. Alexei Kenny sounded great. I as mentioned, I'm an old dude, so I like my violins to sound just a bit grittier. He's a very movable performer. I mean, he moved a lot while he performed. His feet it wasn't like he was pacing around, but his hips moved a lot. And it didn't seem extraneous. It didn't look just like, but it, I don't know. It wasn't distracting, but I had to keep thinking, is that little hip swivel helping him with the sound? And I guess at the end of it, I feel like, yes, it was what he does to get that sound out of the violin. And he has a nice full sound and some really beautiful long bows that sort of began from his hip. So maybe that's why he had to move the way that he did. So take that not as a criticism, but more of as descriptive context, that this is a violinist who you will definitely see move like a willow tree as his bow plunges into the violin. Bartok. I don't know what to tell you about Bartok. You either know the Concerto for Orchestra or you don't. And if you do, you know it's a great piece. And if you don't know it, go listen to it. It's colorful. It's profound. It's, from a craft perspective, it's an astonishing piece for the balancing of the orchestra. So just if you're interested in the mechanics of the orchestra, it's a phenomenal piece. And it was this was a good performance, unqualified. Just the conductor really got some nice movement out of the orchestra. There's in that piece there's some folk music references, but they're a bit jagged references. They're not like with most of Bartok. It's not that it's ironic, but it's framed, it's contextualized, and it's jaunty, but it's not sarcastically jaunty. Right? It's not, jaunty without being sarcastic. That's how I would put it. It sounded good. We didn't stick around for the chamber ensemble afterwards because we went out for dinner. Me and Catherine and Nick and Shannon, we went out for tacos at Bakersfield, which is great. Downtown has changed since the pandemic. It's just never gotten quite as full. There's just not as many people down. It's true in the concert hall. It was. It's just not full. 80% maybe on a full. To be full now. And I don't get downtown that often because I don't work in town that often anymore. So it's not like part of my daily jaunt. It's always like getting into town, particularly in the evening. It's always, Pittsburgh's a great city with a lot of character. I don't know how else to put it. It's a great city to be wandering around. So we had a good time. Was there anything else I was going to say? I think that's it. There was some comments at the dinner table that the cut of the conductor's tails was not elegant. That he wore a jacket with tails, but it was a modern cut. It was very straight. Didn't have there were no collars. So it looked nice from the front, but from the back, the tails could either have been a little bit longer or a little bit shorter. And because we were right behind the conductor, we had nice orchestra seats. The sartorial, there was a lack of sartorial gravitas, let's say, because the tails seemed to have a life of themselves, that they weren't floofing around in relationship to his movements. They just seemed to floof around. I don't think in any way take that as context as well, not as a comment on the music. So there you go. Bartok, yeah, decent. The Barber, all right, a little bit movie with the player, but all right. And Bright Idea by Nico Muhly. Good, but not my. The Nico Muhly piece I'm going to listen to is that Drones album. So, coming up, I got a few other concerts. I think some Prokofiev in a couple of weeks. February's a busy month. I think we've got a concert every week in February. So let me know in the comments if you were at this concert, if you have any comments of your own that you would like to share, any questions about any of the statements I've made, particularly around the cocktails. Let me know if you agree with my suggestion for a good, solid, well-made old-fashioned.